Are you afraid of losing your mind? Think carefully, because this video is about a place where madness became the new norm, a place that ignored the laws of the country it was located in, and its leader, a pastor who, through his natural charisma, convinced parents to abandon their beloved children. Picture Charles Manson, then imagine someone 100 times more dangerous. We'll dive into the disturbingly dark history of Colonia Dignidad, which the media dubbed the Colony of the Damned. After learning about it, ask yourself again, are you afraid of losing your mind? Or are you afraid that if you ended up in a place like this, you'd be the only one still sane? For the first few years after its founding, the global community didn't even know Colonia Dignidad existed. Or rather, people outside didn't care. The reason was simple. From the outside, it seemed like an idyllic community. In 1962, a year after its establishment, Colonia Dignidad was officially registered as a charitable organization. Located in central Chile, the colony opened a farm, a bakery, and even a public hospital where locals received free medical care, all with the blessing of the Chilean authorities. Even the name was chosen to project a wholesome image, Colonia Dignidad, which translates from Spanish to Colony of Dignity. The settlement's leader promised his followers a God-fearing life in a promised land. In return, they would provide humanitarian aid to the poor rural population, all under the slogan, God Work, Discipline. This corruption-free facade aimed at outsiders appeared flawless. However, as soon as questions arose about why the colony was founded in Chile instead of the leader's homeland, the polished image quickly peeled away, revealing the darkest part of his past. It's time to meet the founder of this hidden earthly hell, Paul Schaefer. He was born in Germany on December 4, 1921, and lost an eye in childhood for reasons that aren't entirely clear. The most common story points to a fight with a peer. Schaefer became what you might call a model student, joining the Hitler Youth. But due to his missing eye, he couldn't directly enlist in the Wehrmacht army. Instead, he was sent to the Western Front as a medic. Schaefer claimed his glass eye resulted from a battlefield injury, though he actually served as a doctor in a Nazi field hospital in occupied France, eventually reaching the rank of corporal before laying down his arms. This winding career path made Schaefer an expert in using drugs and tranquilizers, a skill he'd later apply as the head of the colony. After such a turbulent youth, the former Nazi paramedic seemed eager to whitewash his reputation. In 1954, he founded a private social mission. On paper, this organization focused on charity, but in reality, Schaefer drew inspiration from American preacher William Branham, who gained fame after the war. Branham's ideas ranged from beliefs like a woman's duty being submission to her husband, to predictions of an apocalypse where Los Angeles would sink underwater. The year 1956 marked a turning point for Schaefer. In the German city of Siegburg, near his hometown, he founded a boarding school for children whose parents were part of his religious community. They obediently handed over their kids and worked for the cult for free, unaware of what was really happening behind the school's closed doors. What took place there was truly horrific. I haven't yet mentioned a crucial detail in Schaefer's biography, one that preceded both the boarding school and the founding of the colony. Shortly after World War II, Paul Schaefer was hired by an evangelical organization that cared for orphans, but in 1952, he was expelled after being accused of sexually abusing several children. Now, with unrestricted access to the boarding school's students and near total control over their parents' minds, Schaefer had free rein to act on his sinister desires. You might think such crimes couldn't stay hidden, even in a small town, and you'd be right. By the late 1950s, information leaked to the police, and a criminal case was opened against Paul Schaefer on suspicion of child molestation. For a while, his connections with influential people, built through the colony, protected him. He used this time to search for a safer place for his cult, a location where no one would come to his followers' aid, even if they begged for help. After years of searching, in 1961, Paul Schaefer crossed the Atlantic Ocean and arrived in Chile, with about 230 followers in tow. This move was facilitated by Arturo Maschke, the Chilean ambassador to Germany, who granted Schaefer's followers refugee status and provided full legal support. On September 21, 1961, Schaefer, along with his loyal associate German Schmidt, purchased an abandoned farm called Vadera, spanning roughly 7,400 acres. This marked the beginning of a mysterious history, passed down through whispers and rumors, a place where many entered but few escaped. From day one, Schaefer, or Eternal Uncle as he was called within the colony, ordered the area to be fenced off. He remembered the damage publicity had caused him back home and was now determined to completely isolate his little kingdom. In its early years, total autonomy was just a dream, but an information blackout around the colony was successfully established. For a time, no news came out at all. That silence broke in 1966 when the first escapee, Wolfgang Miller, spoke out. By then, draconian measures had already been put in place to maintain order within Dignidad. Video cameras, microphones, and motion sensors were imported from Germany and installed around the perimeter to minimize the chances of dissenters escaping. Still, Wolfgang managed to flee on his second attempt, though his first was interrupted by the cult's enforcers. The police caught Wolfgang and brought him back, where he was subjected to torture. The brutality was later confirmed by many escapees, with chilling details described by a former resident, Werner Schmidtke. It was a very large room, and each of us lay on our own bed, with a wall or partition between each bed, he recalled. A bright lamp stood in the center, where men were positioned to see everyone, though the children couldn't see who was on the other beds. They had only a thin sheet, and there was gas heating. To this day, I can't stand the smell of gas, Werner said. They were given beeswax to put in their ears while lying in bed, then their eyes were blindfolded with a towel, and their hands were placed by their sides, as if in a box. After a few minutes, another man entered, someone Werner remembers vividly, still living in the colony. He pulled down their pants, leaving them naked. Fear set in, their hearts racing. Despite the wax in their ears, they heard another boy's scream. A piercing cry. Werner later learned why, when it was his turn. They used an electroshock device, imported from Germany, typically used for stunning livestock. It was powerful, targeting soft parts of the body, the head, and then the genitals. If someone screamed, they were immediately taken away. If you couldn't resist, if you screamed, they'd take you somewhere unknown, Werner explained. They learned it was better to resist because if you didn't, even worse things happened. There was another room with a bathroom and toilets. Werner remembered another man there, the head torturer, whose name he knew, but who has since died. Imagine being stripped naked, and he puts you in a tub of ice-cold water, freezing water in winter, Werner said. They'd dunk your head under water, making you feel a shock so intense you were sure you wouldn't survive. Werner arrived at the colony at just 2 years old, a fate shared by many brought there as young children. They were taken at a very early age and isolated from their parents. Families were divided into groups by age and gender, and children were separated from their mothers at birth. Everyone was forced to call adults uncles and aunts. This fragmentation, along with a ban on communication, even among those in the same group, enabled total control over the residents. The most monstrous aspect of Schaefer's mind games was how he made people forget the madness around them. His time as a Nazi medic gave him enough knowledge to drug people, achieving the effects he wanted without killing them or driving them insane. Many colonists later recounted how, every morning, they went to the local pharmacy, where they were given substances that dulled their memories and kept them compliant. This systematic control and abuse created an environment of terror, where resistance was met with even harsher punishment, and compliance meant losing your sense of reality. The colony's structure ensured that no one could challenge Schaefer's authority, leaving its residents trapped in a cycle of fear and manipulation. A first-hand account of the effects of such therapy came from the wife of the first escapee, Gudrun Miller. I noticed things here and there, and every time I said I saw something wrong, they beat me severely, forced me to take a lot of those drugs, and shocked me with electricity, causing me to lose my memory, she said. This went on for years. I only later found out they used electroshock on me. Other people told me, she added. She confronted the doctor, asking what it was and why they tortured her. I still notice the effects today. I have massive memory loss, but not enough to forget everything, she explained. She remembers enough to speak publicly, finally revealing what happened in that place and the unimaginable things people endured. That's what we want to clarify, and that's why we're talking about it now, she concluded. Miller's escape damaged the eternal uncle, but not fatally. While things settled, Schaefer fled to Argentina, and his followers began compiling files on guests from Chile's elite. Many succumbed to their depraved desires when offered sexual encounters with boys and girls in the colony. During these acts, they were photographed, and the evidence was used to blackmail officials, protecting the colony from police interference for years. Through these influential supporters, Schaefer built a strong network. Miller's case was closed, Schaefer was cleared of all charges, and the colony continued its activities unpunished until 1970, when Salvador Allende was elected president. From the start of his presidency, Allende sought to shut down the colony. In response, the colonists actively supported Allende's opposition, particularly the far-right military group Patria y Libertad, which fought his followers. Many of their militants trained within the colony's walls, and much of their weaponry was smuggled through its territory. Additionally, Colonia Dignidad became a site for holding and executing Chilean political prisoners after Pinochet's armed coup in 1973. However, Paul Schaefer's luck couldn't last forever. After years, Chile's dictatorship fell, diminishing the colony's influence and making it a prime target for journalists and law enforcement. A major contribution to finding Schaefer came from an investigative journalist who had followed his case since 1966 and helped locate the Eternal Uncle's hideout in Argentina. She described the pursuit. "We found a van registered to Peter Schmidt. We knew he was one of Schaefer's close associates in the colony and disappeared with him in 1996. The van was registered to an address at the Chevelco Center. When we arrived, it turned out to be a motorcycle rental shop owned by an Italian," she said. Disguising herself as a German tourist to avoid suspicion, she spoke with the owner, who led the Corolla team to a cheese factory possibly linked to the fugitive Messiah. That night, we followed Schaefer's accomplices through dark backroads, stopped, marked the location, and returned the next day to find Los Olivos, she recounted. It was a ranch, which, a year later, they confirmed as Schaefer's hiding place. One of their journalists infiltrated the area and spoke with neighbors, but no one talked about the elderly man until a colonist named Felipe in Argentina hinted at an elderly man living with them, an elderly man with war injuries, who was ill. These clues convinced them they were on the right track. In March 2005, the seemingly endless nightmare ended. Its orchestrator was finally arrested and extradited to Chile. A judge sentenced him to 33 years. On April 24, 2010, Paul Schaefer died of a heart attack in his cell at Santiago prison. The colony still exists, but now anyone can leave. Renamed Villa Baviera, it's become a tourist magnet for those unprepared for life outside its walls. These buildings will long serve as a reminder of the consequences of a madman's unchecked power. Let the past remain in the past, a lesson in the dangers of absolute control and the importance of vigilance.